Have you ever had that moment where you get exactly what you thought you wanted? Maybe a new phone or a trendy piece of clothing, and the excitement just fades. It's not that the thing is bad, but it doesn't quite hit that deep spot of satisfaction you were hoping for. You're left feeling a little empty, maybe even wondering what you actually want in the first place. That quiet, puzzling feeling is a perfect doorway into the ideas of a thinker named Herbert Marcuse and his powerful book, One-Dimensional Man. His core idea, stripped of all the complex academic language, is that our modern system of consumer capitalism is incredibly skilled at making us want things that keep the system running smoothly, often at the expense of our own deeper, truer desires for freedom and fulfillment. You probably recognize that stubborn feeling of being right, of holding on to an opinion even when a little voice inside suggests there might be more to the story. We all do it. Marcuse would suggest this isn't just a personal quirk. It's a social one, encouraged by a world that constantly feeds us a ready-made version of what a good life should look like. It's the picture we see in ads, in movies, in the stories we tell each other about success. This creates a natural tension, a kind of quiet friction between the thoughts that come easily to us, the instinct to chase the next purchase, the next trend, and a deeper, quieter awareness that asks if any of this is truly making us happy or free. Think about it. Remember when you were a kid and you realized a deeply held belief wasn't quite true? Maybe you were absolutely certain about the monster in the closet, or that a certain food was disgusting without ever having tried it. The moment of realizing you were wrong was probably uncomfortable, maybe even a little scary, but it was also a moment of growth. You saw a bigger world. Marcuse argues that as adults, we are encouraged to stop having those moments. We're encouraged to stay in the comfortable closet of our pre-packaged desires, to keep accepting the menu we're given without questioning who wrote it or what might not be listed. Many of us cling to familiar ideas because they feel safe. They make the world seem predictable and manageable. Questioning the whole script, asking why we're on this treadmill of work and spend, why our free time often looks like just another form of consumption, that's deeply unsettling. So we play along. We convince ourselves that the next new thing will finally be the one that makes us feel complete. We fool ourselves into believing that our choices are utterly free, when in reality, they are choices made from a very narrow list of options designed to maintain the status quo. As Marcuse himself put it, people recognize themselves in their commodities. They find their soul in their automobile, hi-fi set, split-level home, kitchen equipment. We are taught to define our very identity by what we own, rather than by who we are or what we can create. This is how the system suppresses true desire. It doesn't do it with force. It does it by flooding the zone, by making it so easy and so satisfying on a surface level to want what it offers. The desire for genuine connection is channeled into social media metrics. The desire for a meaningful impact on the world is funneled into buying a specific brand of ethical coffee. The desire for leisure and creativity is packaged as a streaming subscription or a pre-planned vacation package. These aren't necessarily bad things in themselves, but they become problematic when they completely overwrite our ability to imagine a different way of living, a different set of values. We become one-dimensional, fluent in the language of consumption, but lost for words when it comes to describing a deeper kind of happiness. This isn't about blaming anyone for wanting nice things. It's about noticing the mechanism. It's about that moment of pause between seeing an ad and feeling the urge to buy. It's in that tiny space that a different kind of thinking can emerge. It's the difference between wanting a new car because the old one no longer works, and wanting a new car because you've been made to feel that your current one is an embarrassing extension of your outdated self. One desire is practical. The other is manufactured, designed to keep you in a cycle of productive work and compensatory spending. So, what's the way out? Marcuse isn't terribly prescriptive, and that's on purpose. The first and most radical step is simply the act of recognition. It's to look at that feeling of emptiness after a purchase not as a personal failure, but as a logical result of chasing a false desire. It is to practice questioning our own impulses. Why do I want this? Is this my want, or was it planted there? This act of questioning, of nurturing that deeper awareness over the instinctive thinking we're fed, is a rebellious act. It's the beginning of breaking out of that one-dimensional shell. This cracks open the entire premise of our modern dilemma, the very core of what Marcuse was warning us about. We start our journey in a place of simple comfort. Life feels straightforward. We see an advertisement for a new car and we think, I want that. We feel a pang of envy looking at a friend's vacation photos and we think, I need a trip like that. Our desires feel authentic, our choices feel free, and the path to satisfaction seems clear. We operate on a kind of autopilot, reacting to the world with immediate, knee-jerk responses that the system itself has carefully cultivated within us. This is the world of one-dimensional thought, where a want is just a want, and fulfillment is just a purchase away. It is a comfortable, uncomplicated existence, but it is a sleepwalk. Then, inevitably, comes the confusing middle, the phase of awakening that is profoundly unsettling. This is when we first begin to suspect that our desires might not be entirely our own. You might be someone who resists change at first, clinging to the old simplicity because the new questions are so difficult. We start noticing small contradictions. The new car doesn't bring the lasting joy we anticipated. The dream vacation ends, and the same underlying restlessness returns on the Monday morning back at work. We feel a vague unease, a sense that we are chasing something that constantly moves just out of reach. Most of us feel uneasy during transitions, and this is the ultimate transition of the mind. Marcuse saw this confusion not as a personal failure, but as the necessary and painful result of confronting the administered reality of advanced capitalism. The system isn't designed to make us happy, it's designed to make us consume, and our growing awareness of this fact creates a deep internal conflict. Our old, simple reactions don't work anymore, but we don't yet have new tools to replace them. We are caught between dimensions, and it is a lonely and disorienting place to be. This painful middle phase is where the crucial work happens, the slow and often unconscious shift from reaction to reflection. You may catch yourself pausing before reacting lately. Where you might have instantly clicked buy now on an impulse, you now hesitate for a moment, asking a quiet, nascent question. Do I truly need this? Or was I just told to want it? This tiny pause is monumental. It is the first spark of two-dimensional thinking, the critical faculty that Marcuse believed we must recover. It is the difference between the knee-jerk reaction, which is the engine of the consumer system, and the thoughtful response, which is the beginning of genuine autonomy. The knee-jerk reaction is a closed loop. It accepts the options presented. The thoughtful response opens a door. It questions the menu itself. It asks not just which car to buy, but whether our obsession with private cars is a true social desire or one manufactured by industries that profit from it. Gradually, this leads to a new clarity, not a return to simplicity, but a hard-won understanding of complexity. The world doesn't become simple again, but we become more comfortable navigating its depths. We start to see the architecture of our desires. We understand that our wants are shaped by forces much larger than ourselves. But in understanding that, we reclaim a measure of power. We realize that true freedom isn't the false choice between 100 nearly identical brands of toothpaste. It is the freedom to imagine a society that prioritizes healthy teeth, for all over the profit of a few corporations. This clarity is not about rejecting all material goods. It is about discerning true need from manufactured want. It is about seeking fulfillment in relationships, creativity, community, and nature, things that exist outside the logic of commodification. We begin to define our own happiness on our own terms, building a life based on reflective choices rather than programmed reactions. This is the promise at the end of the difficult journey, the development of a critical consciousness that allows us to see the world and our place in it with new, liberated eyes. Through this discomfort, we begin to see the faint outline of a new path, one that we've been unconsciously avoiding because it looked unfamiliar and felt risky. It's the path of questioning not just our failures, but our successes, not just our sorrows, but the very foundations of our joys. This is where the real work begins, not in grand sweeping gestures, but in the quiet, almost imperceptible shifts in our daily awareness. We start to notice the tiny scripts we perform without thinking, the automatic responses we give to people and situations, the subtle ways we contort ourselves to fit into spaces that were never designed for our unique shape. This noticing is itself a revolutionary act. It's the first, crucial step out of the passenger seat and into the driver's seat of our own consciousness. This process of awakening isn't about casting everything aside in one dramatic moment. That's a fantasy that often leads us right back to where we started, because it doesn't allow for the gentle, necessary process of integration. Instead, it's a slow unfurling, a gentle peeling back of layers we applied for protection, but which have now hardened into a shell. We might find ourselves pausing mid-sentence in a conversation, realizing we were about to say something we don't actually believe, simply to gain approval or avoid conflict. We might feel a strange sense of dissonance while achieving a goal we worked for years to accomplish, wondering why the triumphant feeling we were promised feels so hollow and fleeting. These moments of friction are not signs that we are failing. They are proof that we are beginning to feel again, to truly engage with our experience rather than just moving through it on autopilot. As we sit with this discomfort, a fascinating thing begins to happen. We start to see the mechanisms of our old identity with new clarity. It's like we've been given a pair of glasses that finally correct our vision, allowing us to see the fine print we never knew was there. We can observe, perhaps for the first time, how susceptible we all are to the Barnum effect, that psychological tendency to accept vague, general personality descriptions as uniquely accurate to ourselves. We've all read those horoscopes or taken those online quizzes that tell us we are deeply creative but sometimes insecure, or a natural leader who values close friendships and nodded along, feeling a warm glow of recognition. It feels good to be seen, even by an algorithm. But now, with this new lens, we can see how that desire to be defined, to be neatly categorized, can keep us locked into a version of ourselves that is palatable and predictable, but not necessarily true. This realization isn't meant to make us feel foolish. It's meant to liberate us. When we understand this mechanic, we can choose to stop letting vague external descriptions write our story for us. We can start to author it ourselves, based on the specific, granular, and often messy truth of our lived experience. And the most beautiful part of this shift is how it begins to manifest in the simplest parts of our day. You'll likely find daily decisions coming easier, not because the options are less complex, but because you are less burdened by the imagined judgment of others or the pressure to choose the right thing according to some invisible script. The question slowly transforms from what should I do to what feels authentic to me. This is where we reclaim our agency, not in the big, life-altering choices, but in the 1,000 tiny ones we make between waking and sleeping. Many notice old frustrations don't bother them as much. The traffic jam that used to ruin your morning now becomes 20 minutes to listen to an interesting podcast. The critical comment from a colleague that would have festered for days now rolls off with a shrug, because your sense of self-worth is no longer hooked to their every opinion. This isn't about becoming passive or indifferent. It's about recalibrating our emotional responses to align with what we genuinely care about, rather than what we've been conditioned to react to. We stop pouring our energy into trying to control the uncontrollable and start focusing it on shaping the one thing we truly can influence: our inner world and our responses to the world outside. This journey inward toward a more authentic self is ironically what connects us more deeply to everyone else. As we shed the performative layers, we become more genuine in our interactions. We stop offering people a polished brochure of ourselves and start offering the real, unedited text. This vulnerability, though terrifying at first, becomes the bedrock of true connection. People may not always like the real us, and that's okay. The goal is no longer to be liked by everyone, but to be real and to attract the relationships that thrive on that reality. We find our tribe not through shared interests alone, but through shared values and a mutual respect for authenticity. This entire process, the discomfort, the questioning, the shedding, and the rebuilding, is ultimately about expanding our freedom. But it's a freedom that is deeply internal first. For so long, we might have thought of freedom as the ability to do anything we want, but that's a freedom that is easily taken away by external circumstances. The freedom we discover on this path is sturdier. It's the freedom to choose our thoughts, to curate our responses, to define success on our own terms, and to find peace regardless of the chaos swirling around us. It is the liberation of our mind from the invisible cages it accepted without question. Together, we discover that this isn't a solitary pursuit, but a shared human experience. This yearning to break free from the confinements we didn't even know we had consented to. It is the work of a lifetime, but it begins with a single moment of awareness, a decision to stop pretending the shoes fit when they never really did. And in that realization, we find the courage to finally kick them off, to feel the ground beneath our feet, and to walk our own path, at our own pace, toward a horizon of our own defining. This is the profound and deeply humanizing insight that philosopher Herbert Marcuse pointed toward when he suggested that genuine liberation feels like finally taking off shoes that never quite fit. A release so simple and so profound that it makes you wonder how you ever managed to walk in the old ones at all.